God was never in the sky. They told me God was up there, in some cloud palace, watching us like a cop with a clipboard, counting sins like parking tickets, waiting to punish us for being human. But that never felt right, not once. Even as a kid I'd stare at the sky, and feel nothing. But when I looked into someone's eyes, and felt that spark, that connection, that was real, that was God. I started seeing it everywhere. Not in churches, but in chaos, not in robes, but in street clothes, not in the sky, but in skin. I started realizing, we've been tricked. Trained to look up, so we never look in. And that's the biggest lie they sold us, that we're separate. That we need permission, that we're broken. That we have to earn divinity, through guilt and obedience. But what if God was never separate? What if God's the code, running under every moment? What if your heartbeat is a prayer, and your breath is the proof? See my wife, she don't preach, she don't need to. She moves like love wrapped in skin. She builds worlds just by believing in people. She forgives like she's made of light. And when I sit beside her, I know, she's source. Not because someone told me, but because I remembered. And the wild part is, we all are. Every single one of us, but we forgot. We got taught to bow to systems, to kneel to idols, to obey fear, instead of embodying the spark. But God ain't above you. God's inside you, in your blood, your fire, your choice. So, you me wife is God, and so am I and so are you. But you gotta claim it, not with pride, with presence. Because once you remember, you stop looking. And you start becoming. We forgot we were the flame. You ever feel like you're waking up in a dream that ain't yours? Like you were born into someone else's blueprint. School, job, taxes, death. Smile for the camera, say the pledge, sit down, shut up. They call that life. But that ain't living, because deep down, I knew I came here with fire, but they taught me to fear it. They taught me to dim it, to trade my flame for fitting in, to call obedience a virtue, and calling yourself God. They said that's blasphemy. But let me ask you, what's more blasphemous? Saying God lives in you, or saying you're just dust? Just meat, just a mistake. They got it backwards. They want you small. Because small people obey, big people remember. And when you remember who you are, you stop playing their game. I'm not a pawn. I'm not a number. I'm not a sinner begging for grace. I'm the breath of creation, wearing scars like armor. I've been to hell and back, and I found God in the gutter. I found God in my wife's tears and my kids' laughter, in the silence after a fight, when we choose love again. I found God in the eyes of enemies, when we dropped the masks and saw the pain beneath. I found God in myself, when I stopped looking and just listened. And you want to know the wildest part? That means, if God is in me, then God's in you. Even if you forgot, even if you're lost, even if you hate yourself so much you can't see straight. That light never left, it just got buried, under trauma, under shame, under lies. But it's still there, and you can feel it, in stillness and truth, in love without condition. So nah. I'm not waiting for a savior, I already met her. She makes pancakes barefoot and prays with her eyes open. She holds me when I break, and reminds me I'm more than survival. She is the source, and she never needed a throne. The system hides the sacred. They built this world backwards, made power look like money, made wisdom look like degrees, made God look like a man in the clouds. But real power, real wisdom, real God, that's your grandma's hands. That's the way your wife forgives you when you don't deserve it. That's the moment your kid looks at you like you're a hero. Even when you're breaking inside, they don't teach that in school. They don't measure that in GDP. Because they can't sell it, they can't own it. They can't weaponize it, so they hide it. They mock it, they call it weakness, but they're scared of it, because what happens when people remember? When they realize God ain't out there, God's right here, in your cells, in your silence, in your stillness, in your pain. Not in spite of it but through it. That's where the divine lives. Not in some temple built for profit, but in the man who's been to the edge and came back softer. In the woman who turns chaos into love like it's her nature. In the ones who hold space when others collapse. You want to see God? Look in the mirror, past the tired eyes, past the regrets, past the things you won't even say out loud. There's a flame there, and it don't go out. You can numb it, You can run from it. But it's patient. It's eternal. It's you, not the version they trained you to be. Not the mask you wear to survive. I'm talking the raw, divine being under it all. The one who's seen darkness and chose love anyway. The one who lost everything and still gives. That's God, and that's who you've always been. They built a world to make you forget. They don't need chains anymore. They don't need whips. They don't need cages made of bars. Because they built mental prisons and handed out the keys disguised as freedom. Netflix, TikTok, elections, porn, politics. Pick a side, they say. Left or right, blue or red, but it's the same bird. Same beast, just different feathers. And while you're screaming at strangers online, fighting over illusions, they're draining your soul in silence. They feed you garbage food, fill your sky with poison, put fluoride in your water, and tell you to trust the science. But they won't let you question it. That's not science, that's religion. And every ad you scroll by, every headline you read, is a sermon for their church, the church of control, where the God they serve is power, and the devil is your awakening. Because if you ever really remembered who you are, if you ever turned off the noise long enough to feel again, you'd burn the whole illusion down. Not with violence, with truth. That's why they keep you busy. Tired, dumbed down, hooked, ashamed. They sell you beauty, so you hate your own reflection. They sell you success, so you feel like a failure. They sell you Jesus on Sunday, and sell you fear every other day of the week. But real Christ, he flipped tables, he walked with outcasts. He said the kingdom was within you. Not behind walls, not behind pulpits, not behind politics. But they don't want you to hear that part, because if you knew the divine was in your breath, you'd stop asking for permission and start living like you're free. So they distract you, divide you, medicate you, entertain you. Because your awakening is a threat, not to the world, but to their world, the one they built on your amnesia. But it only takes one spark, one moment of remembering, to set a whole generation on fire, reclaim the flame. You've seen behind the curtain now. The lie ain't strong anymore. It's loud, yeah, but it's hollow. And when you see it for what it is, you can't unsee it. So now what? You don't fight the system by playing their game. You beat it by becoming unplayable. You beat it by remembering. You beat it by reclaiming your frequency, because frequency is everything. You're not just a body, you're a signal. And whatever you tune to, you attract, you absorb, you become. So if you're tuned to fear, you'll see threats in every corner. If you're tuned to shame, you'll sabotage your own peace. But when you tune to truth, to love, to presence, you become uncheckable. Here's how you reclaim it. Silence, turn off the noise, and not just the media, the music, the screens, but the self-talk, the inner critic, the echo of every voice that tried to shape you. Sit with yourself, net for answers, just to feel. Breath, it sounds too simple, but it's not. Your breath is the bridge between survival and spirit. Slow it down, breathe deep, inhale like it's sacred, because it is. That's the source speaking in rhythm. Truth, stop lying to yourself, not just the big leaps, but the subtle ones. I'm fine, I'm not enough, I'll change later. Truth cuts like a blade, but it heals deeper than anything. See it out loud even if your voice shakes. Forgiveness, you can't rise while dragging the chains of old pain. You're not weak for letting go, you're strong for refusing to carry poison in your spirit. Forgive them, but more importantly, forgive you. Ritualnet, religion not rules, but rhythm. Light a candle, speak your intentions, bliss your food, thank the ground beneath your feet, make your life sacred again. Action, don't wait for permission, bold dakes what you know to what you're here to doven. If your hands shake, even if no one claps, because the flame you carry doesn't need applause, it just needs to burn. You were never lost, just covered in noise. But now you're remembering, and when you remember who you are, the system loses its grip, the fear starts to fade, and the divine within you stands up, looks around, and starts building a new world.